It's what you're doing, making me feel like I'm falling.
Hey guys, for today's video, I'm doing another compilation. This compilation is going to be every figurine makeover that I have ever done on my channel. I also have been decorating my art room. That is a video that will be posted eventually. When I come back from my break. I just had a baby, I went back to work, and I need a little bit more of a break. So in this time, I'm using this time period to combine all of my series into very long videos. Long format content is very popular, and I personally really like the idea of having my series in one video. Thank you so much for your continued support as I do take a break. I really appreciate all of the positive comments that have been coming my way. You guys are really, really nice to me. Me and my husband have been laughing at the comments. We're like, the moms, they come out to fight for the moms. So I really do appreciate it. I will be back eventually. I just really need a break. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. Okay, so I'm taking out my clay tools. There are a bunch of things that I have barely used. I actually purchased these tools for a sculpting course in college, which I then had to drop because I couldn't fit it with my engineering courses. I don't know what any of this is. An egg? Unclear. Someone commented what the sponge was for a while ago, and I forgot. I also have this very long marshmallow skewer that I'm going to be cutting for, well, something that I did not use. These came with fake succulents from the Dollar Tree, and I thought I would use it for this clay until I realized my clay has to be baked. That is plastic. Plastic melts. Please ignore this. The wooden dowel is freed and it's time to take out my clay. This is a pencil case full of clay with a glossy sculpey thing. Not sure what it's called. I'm starting off with this white piece of clay and I'm creating the inside to, well, probably the most difficult thing I could possibly create as a beginner. More on that later. The clay was extremely tough to work with, and by the end of the video, my palms felt like they had been bruised. Despite my apparent lack in strength, I was able to knead each of these colors into clay that was mushy enough to use. Back to the pink, and we're dividing it into a bunch of tiny spheres. I took my wooden marshmallow skewer from earlier and stuck it in the center, and I am going to be creating a bunch of flower petals. More specifically, rose petals. My method for creating the petals was to take the ball, mush it against my palm, kind of mush it to the left, mush it to the right, and then roll it out with the wooden dowel. Sometimes I would flip the petal over and repeat this process until I had something that looked like a rose petal. So you might be asking yourself, Marissa, why create the most difficult thing possible when you are a beginner at clay and you hate it? Well, Jan, I have two answers for you. The first reason I decided to make a rose out of clay is because on Instant Influencer episode 1, I created a flower out of construction paper, and I got a lot of comments asking me how I made that flower. The truth is, that process for creating the construction paper flower, the one from Instant Influencer, is extremely similar to the process for creating this clay flower. The main difference between the two are the petals. The petals on Instant Influencer were cut out from construction paper, and the petals here are molded from clay. But the process for creating both the construction paper and the clay roses are basically the same. You start with a centerpiece and then you slowly add on petals to the outside. On the Instant Influencer flower, I was taping the petals together, but on this one it's clay, so I'm molding the flowers together. And my hand's orange. Washed those off and also repainted my nails. Taking out our yellow petal color, and we're gonna talk about my second reason for creating a rose. Yes, there are two reasons, remember? Well, Jan, I have two answers for you. The second reason is, well, I don't know if it's gonna be an unpopular reason, but it's certainly not something that most people do, at least as far as I know. When I'm a beginner at something and I don't know how to do it, I will generally choose something that is as hard as I can possibly do. For some reason, whenever I'm starting a project, I always want to do the most complicated thing possible. For me, the whole point of this is to learn as much as possible at one time. I don't really mind creating videos about me being bad at something or failing because I feel like everyone is bad at things when they're a beginner, and if I've never tried it before, I'm obviously going to be not the best at it. My mentality towards learning has always been to try something as hard as I can possibly try, learn as much as I can at once, and then going forward, I'll have a bigger skill set. It really does depend on your personal learning style. Everyone is different. Some people like to start slow and gradually build their knowledge over time, but I'm more the learner that when I know absolutely nothing, I really have to get a good overall survey of all the possibilities by just trying something that's almost impossible and failing sometimes. But actually, in the case of this rose, I don't think I failed. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by how this rose came out. To finish up this rose, I'm applying the Sculpey gloss. It's kind of like varnish, it just makes everything really shiny. Checking if it's dry, and I'm glossing the bottom, shining the backside, buffing the bun. What am I saying? What? Here is what the final rose came out looking like. I am so pleasantly surprised by this. I really, really love it. I personally have had really bad experiences with clay in my minimal time, so I'm happy with it. Let's move on to make something else. I'm going to be using Chip and Cherie as inspiration for these next... Up first, I'll be using Cherry, or Sherry, as Chip likes to say. For these next two clay pieces, I decided to make a miniature version of both Chip and Cherry. As it turns out, creating miniature versions of things from clay is actually much harder than it appears. I did eventually get this untangled. It's so hard to create little tiny mini pieces of clay. I almost feel like it would have been easier if I made these things life-sized. Although I would have definitely run out of clay and my oven is not big enough. And now I will show you the minimal knowledge I have of clay. I know you make a diamond and you cut it in half, and that is how you get 2 ears. I learned that from watching some YouTube videos. I also know that you should do this to the clay so it sticks together. I learned that from my 3 weeks of college, where I took a sculpture class that I then had to drop because I had too many math classes. I had to create this swirly thing in a smaller form so it actually fit against this miniature berry tart. I'm rolling out a cylinder for the arms. I cut it in half and attached it. I also attached the 2 little triangle ears and used this tool, which I don't think it's the correct tool, to smooth it out. Notice that Cherry has a bunch of berries around her, so I am rolling those out. It's kind of like rolling a booger. Look at all these boogers. And then I very delicately placed each of the boogers around Cherry's cup. Just kidding, they are berries, in case anyone needed me to clarify that. Cherry also has some whipped cream on her head, so I sculpted that. And then we are stabbing her some eye sockets.
Oh my god!
Most of these tools look quite dangerous, if we're actually being honest. They look like shivs and knives. I tried my best to sculpt her a face. Kind of looks like she has a mustache now, but that's okay. She's going in. I burnt her to a crisp. Have I ever told you how much I love my oven? We're losing her. Claire, we're losing her. Sherry, listen to me.
What?
I have a very rainbow sparkly plate. Honestly, we did not have any other plates in my house. I don't know who did this. I'm painting Cherry with a blue color on her body and a tan color for her tart. I used 2 Posca paint pens to color in the berries, as well as a red Posca paint pen for the cherry drips around her tart. I also used Posca paint pens for the face and for the little hearts on the ears. I tried my best to create Cherry's eyeliner. It turned out a little wonky, but I did my best. And this is what her face turned out like. It's so hard to get details on something so small, so I was really happy with this. But then I added the gloss. It smeared. Oh no. I was so sad when this happened, and I still can't figure out why it happened. I don't think Posca paint pens reactivate with water, so maybe it just wasn't dry, but I thought it was. I don't know. She's a mess, but she's still cute. And I was determined to not make this same mistake with Chip. If you don't know who Chip and Cherry are, I probably should have explained that earlier in the video, but they're my squishies. Chip is a mouse, and Cherry is a cat. And they kind of have a cat and mouse relationship going on here. Get it? Because Chip is a mouse and Cherry is she's a cat, so cat and mouse. I try, what can I say? Once I had finished all the clay for Chip, I put him into the oven to bake. And no, I did not burn him this time. We're learning, guys. On this Friday, November 26th to Sunday, November 28th, I will be having a Black Friday deal on my Teespring. Enter the code BELLA10 and you'll get 10% off. So if you've been wanting to get my merch, this is the time to check it out, because there's a discount. Because I didn't really want to go through the trouble of mixing all these different paint colors, I did end up using a lot of Posca paint pens. I colored in the whites of Chip's eyes, as well as his nose and his tongue. And then I tried my best to do the detail work for the face, as well as the sprinkles on top of Chip's ice cream. After that, I added some highlights and then brought the gloss back out. I made sure it was dry this time, I patted it with my finger, and it didn't really smear at all. And here is what the Chip Mini came out looking like. I forgot his chocolate chips, so I did add that to his ears after the fact, and I really like this one. I think it came out cute. Here is Cherry with her squishy, and Chip with his squishy. Although they're a little bit messed up, I do honestly kind of like them. I really like the rose because, I don't know, the rose I'm just shocked that I even made. I don't even know how I made that. I'm honestly more proud of the minis because they were so hard to make. Here is my ordering from best to worst. Cherry looks like she's been crying in the club. This is an ominous arrangement. It looks like we need just like a smaller rose right there to complete it. Okay, so here we have the 3 plant containers. They once contained fake succulents from the Dollar Tree, but I removed them. I'm struggling to pick this container up. This is getting embarrassing. Come on, you've got it. There we go. These tiny little planters, potted plants, have nothing inside them.
Oh my god!
And I thought it would be really fun to give them a makeover using clay. But first we have my inspiration. When I was little, my grandma used to give me these weird clay flowers. I think she would get them from an arts and crafts fair. Unclear. But the one thing I do know is that every time I went over, I was obsessed with them. She slowly gave me every single one she owned, and I think I broke half of them. I was a kid. Anyway, my point of showing you this is that they are my inspo for this makeover. Taking out my very large container of Crayola air dry clay. So this clay I like a lot. I used to use the baking clay, don't really like that. To be honest, I don't have really any experience with any other type of air dry clay. The Crayola brand is the only kind I have tried, and therefore it is the best kind that I have tried. I filled each of these tiny pots with clay and then gave each of them a belly button. No, just a hole right in the center. After that, I took out these green pipe cleaners and this stick. I took 4 of those pipe cleaners and stuck it inside the hole. I also stuck this stick inside the hole, and then I wrapped the pipe cleaners around it to create a stem for this flower. Then I trimmed it to the right height, and voila, we have a stem. It's beautiful. Taking a big chunk of clay, and we're gonna start making our first flower. I'm starting off by creating the centerpiece to the flower, as well as several petals that will go around the center of this flower. Since I'm planning on creating 3 flowers, I wanted to make sure that each of the flowers had their own distinct
personality.
To do that, I wanted to have a range of emotions and a range of flower petal shapes. For this flower, I wanted the petals to have that, like, curvy look to it that the 2000s flowers used to have. And what I mean by that is I wanted the flower to have, like, a little curvy point to the edge of its petal.
I took out some water and used it to smooth out all of the edges on this clay. At this point in the process, the flower is still missing one petal. And that is actually because I have chosen to make this flower look like he is losing some petals and he is potentially going bald. It's very stressful. To make sure that this flower was balanced in terms of the weight of the clay, I added this ball to the back of the flower just to balance everything out and make sure it could stand up straight at the end of this. I stuck a hole at the bottom of this piece because that is where the stem is going to go. I let the clay harden for 24 hours and then started painting it. For the color scheme on these flowers, I decided to go with a pastel kind of color scheme, but it's kind of like a neon pastel, if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Sort of a paradox, but I mixed in some neon Craftsmart paint, and I feel like it has a vibrance to it, although it is still pastel. I decided that this flower should be purple. Well, actually, I initially decided that this flower would be blue, but I mixed all my colors off camera and forgot that this one was the blue one, accidentally painted it purple, and he's a purple flower now. I mean, it's fine. I just want it to be blue because blue kind of makes me feel like
Blue, sad.
but purple could be sad too. I feel like purple has more grumpy vibes than blue. Blue is more like, I'm sad and I'm just gonna cry silently. Purple is like, I'm sad and I'm gonna be really grumpy about it. That's just my current feeling on the colors. Feel free to disagree. I'm taking out my disgusting hot glue gun. It's just really gross. I am so sorry, guys. I just don't care that it's disgusting. I'm securing the very heavy flower to the flower stem, and it's looking pretty good, pretty firm. And we're gonna start working on the face for this sad flower who has lost a petal. After painting the whites of the eyes, I moved on to the sad frown, as well as the sad eyebrows. I feel like the eyebrows just change everything about the face, and these are pretty sad, disgruntled eyebrows. I added some polka dots to the bottom of the potted plant area, and some pupils. I feel like I always sound crazy when I talk about shapes, but hear me out. I really like how the eyebrows are downturned and kind of like shaped with a curve, and I feel like that's
Echoed.
in the shape of the petals. I feel like that's emphasizing and bringing things together. A little. I decided to add my signature to the potted part of the plant pot. And then I'm taking out my Angelus High Gloss Acrylic Finisher. This is basically like a thing that will seal all the colors in and kind of give it a bit of a shine. I felt like it was missing something, so I added some green dots to the edges of the petals, and I feel like that did bring things together a bit more. And then last but not least, I took out this bag of like shredded paper from the Dollar Tree and just stuck it at the bottom of the potted plant to cover up that clay. And here we have the final look for Sad Sandy. Sandy the sad flower. I'm actually really happy with this one. I love the concept of it missing a petal and being upset about it. I really like the way the eyes came out, and I really like the color scheme. So I'm pretty content with the way this one came out. Let's move on to the next flower. For this next flower, I decided I wanted everything about it to be very rounded. We have round petals, a round circle. After squishing all of the petals into place, I then went on to blend the clay together. I'm not sure if this is actually the correct way you're supposed to do it, but it did work for me eventually, and I think it's probably fine. I'm not a clay expert, but this looks good enough. Again, for balance purposes, I did add a ball to the back of the flower, just so I could stick the stem into that and also make sure that the flower was not going to fall forward on its face and crack in half. After I had smoothed all of that out with water and a paintbrush, I created a hole for the stem and let it dry overnight. And now we're finally ready for some paint. I started off by painting the back of this flower. I guess you can kind of consider this the skull of the flower. I also took some of that same yellow color that I used before and painted the center pollen part. I don't know what the name of any of this is, okay? And here we have the light blue. The light blue color that I was supposed to paint on the purple flower but then forgot. This color mix-up actually worked out for the best. The basic idea for this flower is that I wanted its personality to be a couple of things. I wanted it to be surprised. I wanted it to look a little bit naive and kind of like it has its head stuck in the clouds. Clouds are round and they are in a blue sky. The flower is supposed to be happy-go-lucky, doesn't really know what's going on, has their head in the clouds, and is a little shocked that some of the other flowers around him are experiencing things like losing a petal, etc. To represent the head in the clouds naivety, I added some cloud decorations to its pot. And then I moved on to the face. For the pupils, I wanted them to be big and round and circular. I made the mouth a circle, like he's opening his mouth like, oh! The eyebrows are also shocked. This flower is really just stunned. To emphasize a little bit more of the naivety, I added glimmers in the eyes with some stars, and I feel like he does look very like, ooh, like, what's going on? I added my signature down there in the clouds, tried to make it look a little bit more like a cloud than usual. I think it looks cute. And then we're just adding the acrylic finisher. This is going to seal all the paint in and make it look like it has a nice, shiny varnish on top of it. Paint pens are water-based, and because they're water-based, you can't put an acrylic finisher on top or it will smear everywhere. I've made this mistake before. And last but not least, I added the shredded paper from the Dollar Tree to the bottom of the pot to make sure the clay was covered up. And here we have the final result for our blue, head in the clouds, naive flower that is totally shocked that someone has lost a petal already. I really like this one. I love its personality, I love its color schemes, and I really like the clouds. They echo the round shapes on the shocked mouth and eyes and eyebrows and petals. Let's move on to our last and final makeover for this video. Another flower. I decided to make these flower petals look like they're kind of sharp and that they're spinning in a circle. Kind of like a pinwheel. My idea for this flower was I wanted it to look like he is being just hit with a bunch of wind, a huge gust of wind, and this flower is trying its best to stay upright. After molding the basic petal structure, I did add the back skull to this flower. I'm just referring to it as a skull from now on. I don't know what this is called. That dried overnight, and we're ready to paint the clay. I'm painting the skull, i.e. the part where the stem will be inserted. I guess the stem would be the neck in this case. Interesting. And I'm also painting the center of the flower yellow. Dipping into this neon tangerine kind of color, this perturbed flower. Angry. I guess he's like angry? Aggravated. I think aggravated will be the best word. He's the aggravated flower. He's gonna be painted an angry color. Orange. If I wanted this flower to look really angry, I could have done red. But as far as the spectrum of anger goes, I feel like this flower is leaning more towards like an irritated, aggravated type of anger, as opposed to red, which would have been furious. So that is why I went with orange. He's lightly angry, you know? I would also like to point out that to further emphasize the anger, I chose to make the petals look like they're spinning like a pinwheel, but also kind of look like fire flames. I took out my blue and decided to make little swirly things on the pot because I wanted it to look like wind was swirling. I don't know if any of this is making sense. I feel like half the time I just sound like I'm rambling about nothing and no one understands what I'm saying. I gave this flower slightly shocked eyes because I wanted it to feel like he was like, what is going on? I'm so annoyed. Why is there so much wind hitting me? Must stay straight. He's struggling. With my blue Posca paint pen, I added some lines to emphasize the spinningness on the flower petals, and I also added some dots. I'm not sure if I like this or not, but I felt like the petals were just too plain. I don't know, it's kind of hard to make it look like wind is hitting a clay figurine, but I did my best. And last but not least, I added some shredded paper to the bottom part of this pot. And here we have the final look for this very angry, frustrated flower that is being hit by a gust of wind. He looks annoyed and kind of fiery, which I appreciate. I like his facial expression. There's something about it that just screams, I'm really annoyed, perturbed, you know? And here we have all 3 of the figurine makeovers that I did for this week's episode. We have a sad flower that lost a petal, an aggravated flower that is being hit by a gust of wind, and a rounded flower that is totally shocked by what is going on. Okay, so here are the 5 cupcake figurines that resulted from my very failed homemade squishy video. Not the bunnies! They are very shiny and hard. They're actually very lightweight and very fun to make noises on. I'll stop. The first thing I'm doing is painting my cupcake a cupcake cake color. It kind of started as a cake color, but I wanted it to be a more specific cakey color. For the cupcake wrapper, I've decided to start with pink. It's worth noting that I did have to repaint both of these colors to slightly different shades, but I didn't know that at the time. We're taking out the air dry clay that I purchased from Crayola. It is a massive amount of clay that I discovered was extremely wet, just slimy. But we're going in. I'm taking some chunks of the clay. I am trying my best to mold the clay into the shape of a strawberry. I have chosen to paint my wrapper pink, and it's only fitting that the clay on top of this cupcake will also have a pink theme, such as a strawberry shortcake. So my idea for this was to create a strawberry shortcake cupcake, and on top we're going to have a strawberry with a little character that is, I suppose, growing out of the strawberry. A strawberry shortcake cat. We have a strawberry with some leaves and a cat's head on top. Makes sense? The cat did need some arms, so I removed his head from the top of the strawberry, molded those in. Once I felt like the strawberry shortcake cat's ears and arms were ready, I placed the head back on the strawberry back on the cupcake. And then I wanted to create some whipped cream. So I took a real baking icing thing and kind of pushed the clay through it and tried my best to create some whipped cream. At this point, everything is looking pretty bad. I will admit I'm not very good at using clay, so go easy on me. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying my best to add some extra details to make this piece really come together. I'm creating very small little pieces of clay and sticking them inside the strawberry so they look like the strawberry seeds. I'm even creating an extra leaf to go at the back of the head of this cat. I don't know, it just looked like it needed another leaf. And then last but not least, the cat needed a very long tail, which is going to actually be a strawberry vine. Is the cat stuck inside the strawberry, or is the cat the strawberry itself? We don't know. I used some water to smooth everything out, and then I let it dry for 24 hours. Once our strawberry shortcake cat was dry, it was time to take out some colors. I'm using this pink color for the strawberry. I strongly debated for a while if I wanted to paint the strawberry a red color, but I ultimately landed on this rosy pink color. I feel like it's more fun. I dipped into this tan color and repainted the cupcake cake color. I was not happy with the shade, so it's just slightly different now. I kind of regret not painting the whipped cream a bright white color, but oh well. We're dipping into this green color, which I'm very happy with. I spent a long time mixing this green color. I just feel like this looks so cool next to the pink red color I chose. Just saying. While I was painting this, a tragedy strucketh us. She broke her leg. I needed to take out some Gorilla Glue, which is just like super glue, and I was able to super glue this leg back to the cat. So she needs a cast. She's gonna have a broken leg for a little bit, but she'll be okay. We just have to be very gentle with her. After that was all glued together, I was able to finish painting the green parts on this strawberry shortcake cat. I made the strawberry vine kind of look like it is the cat's tail. This is a decision that I am absolutely obsessed with. Since the cat is supposed to be a strawberry shortcake cat, I did paint her a light pink color. After the cat was painted, I felt like the wrapper was a little too plain, so I decided to add some pink and green polka dots to the wrapper. I dipped into my darkest shade of this pink color, I guess it's kind of like a fuchsia color, and painted the strawberry seeds with that. I also decided to add some details to the face of the cat, including some blush. In the past, I never really gave my characters blush like this, but I've recently become kind of obsessed with it. I added some details to the paws and then dipped into this darker green color for the vines. And while I was doing the details on the vines, I started to think about the cat's expression. At first, I wanted the cat to be grumpy because grumpy cats, it's kind of funny, but then as I started to look at the cat, she started to look really sad. She just looks like she's upset because she's stuck inside a strawberry. And you know what? That's kind of relatable. I would also be very upset if someone stuck me inside a strawberry and I couldn't get out. You know, that's quite an upsetting thing to have happen to you.
What?
I figured, you know what? Let's make her have a little bit of tears in her eyes. She's not hysterically crying or anything, but she's just lightly crying. The strawberry shortcake cat is a sad cat. She's like, why is this happening to me? And I think we all can ask the question with her. Why is this happening to her? How did she get stuck inside a strawberry? Is this part of her body? Maybe she's not actually stuck in a real strawberry. Maybe she just went camping and got stuck inside a sleeping bag. Maybe she's just being like swaddled by a strawberry blanket.
Yeah, I like that.
It's hard to say, but what we do know is that this cat is slightly upset about her current circumstances. To finish up the figurine, I used a high gloss varnish to seal in all of the paint and make it nice and shiny. And here is what the final piece turned out looking like. A strawberry shortcake cat that is a little bit upset. I really like this piece. I feel like the face is super cute. I like that she's just lightly crying. She's just silently sitting there like, why is this happening to me? I feel like this is a significant improvement from the plain cupcake. I'm very happy with the cat that's on top of this. I feel like she is so sad. As you guys kind of probably have started to notice, I really appreciate when art is a little bit strange and doesn't really quite make sense, but it's cute. Let's move on to the next cupcake. For this cupcake, I decided to paint the wrapper yellow, and I did stick with yellow, but the shade slightly changed later. Off camera, I cut myself on a piece of glass very badly. I was profusely bleeding everywhere and had to use a Band-Aid with the clay, which is kind of gross, but yeah, the clay got all over my Band-Aid. Ew. I just wanted to point this out because from here on out, I'm gonna have a gross Band-Aid on. It's gonna have some clay on it. I am upset about it. You're probably upset about it. We're all upset about it, but I didn't want to get clay inside my wound. I will stop talking about the cut on my finger and bring your attention towards the clay that I am molding. I decided to go for a similar theme to the last one and have some kind of character growing out of a fruit and or vegetable. This one is yellow, so I was thinking of things that are yellow. I could do a banana. I could do a spaghetti squash, which is kind of lame. Or we could do a lemon. I personally like the lemon idea. However, I wanted the cupcake to have a fun flavor, and while lemon cupcakes are kind of a thing, I think lemon cake is a thing, I realized that lemon poppy is so much more fun. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but in my experience, I haven't really encountered many lemon poppy cupcakes. But I have encountered a lot of lemon poppy muffins. So I've made the executive decision to turn this cupcake into a muffin. A lemon poppy muffin. Once I decided on a lemon poppy muffin, I immediately thought of a Dalmatian, because Dalmatians have black spots, just like lemon poppy muffins. They have little black dots. And then I thought to myself, I can't be the first person that drew this. You know, like, this has to be a thing, because Dalmatians have dots, lemon poppy has dots. The world is a big place, there's a lot of people, and only a small amount of ideas that are unique. And I thought that there had to be at least one one person that had come up with this idea. I did some Googling and I discovered no one. I literally could not find one drawing of a lemon poppy seed Dalmatian. I'm not saying I'm definitely the first person to draw it, but I personally could not find even one drawing of a lemon poppy Dalmatian online. And I may possibly have been the first person to make a lemon poppy Dalmatian. And I'm pretty excited about it. I cannot wait to draw a page in one of my prompt journals about a lemon poppy seed Dalmatian. It's gonna be so fun. I have so many ideas for it, and I'm very excited. Since lemons are quite sour, I thought it would be funny if we made the lemon poppy seed Dalmatian to have a sour face. So I decided to draw the eyes in kind of like a squinty, this is sour tasting face, and I'm really happy with the way that looks. I think it looks pretty funny that he's like, this is sour. And finally, to finish up the painting for this, I dipped into some white and added a lot of highlights to the lemon poppy Dalmatian muffin, very long name. I kind of went a little crazy with the highlights on these figurines, but I love highlights. I added my signature to the back, and then I dipped into the high gloss and just coated everything with this glossy varnish to seal the paint in on the figurine. Here is what the final thing turned out looking like. I am so happy with the lemon poppy seed Dalmatian. You don't even know. I just love that it's making a sour face. I love just the concept that it's a lemon poppy Dalmatian. I think he looks super cute. It's fun. It's different. Is he stuck inside the lemon? Is he the lemon himself? Maybe he's just inside it. I feel like it would be weird if he just had a lemon body. Okay, let's move on to the next cupcake. For this cupcake, I decided to do something a little different. I wanted to do orange because I'm trying to do at least some of the colors of the rainbow. I only have 5 cupcakes, so I can't do every color, but I can do most of them, and orange is going to be one of them. The first 2 figurines both involved a fruit, and I wanted to still have that theme of the character growing out of a fruit or a vegetable. So in this case, I decided to make it a vegetable. I could have went the easy route and done an orange for the color orange, but then I thought to myself, what would the flavor of this cupcake or muffin be if the fruit wasn't orange? I don't think that's popular. Is there any other kind of like muffin or cupcake flavor that is orange? And then I remembered carrot cake. I love carrot cake, and I also love bunnies. I've been on a real bunny obsession recently. All of the Michaels, like, decorations have a lot of cute bunnies. There's so much bunny decorations with Easter, so I thought this would be a perfect time to make a carrot cake cupcake with a bunny and a carrot on top. Carrots also have leaves on top, so I made the bunny growing out of the carrot leaves. Okay, wait. I feel like I have a very important logistical decision to make about all 3 of the figurines I have made so far. The strawberry cat, the lemon poppy Dalmatian, and the carrot cake bunny. Are they part of their fruits and vegetables? Or are they separate from them? They're just inside them and they can get out and leave whenever they want. The final decision is kind of a combination of the 2. They are all the flavor of their fruit and vegetable. For example, this bunny does have a carroty flavor to her, but they are also separate. They can get out of their fruit and vegetable and walk around, and then they can hop back inside the vegetable if they want. It's kind of like a sleeping bag. That's the final decision, and I'm standing by it. I've decided to make this carrot cake bunny have a surprised expression. I feel like she's just totally shocked that she's inside of a carrot. I myself can't relate to being inside of a carrot, but I imagine it would be quite shocking. I feel like bunnies are very energetic and they just like hop all over the place, which is why I wanted her to have kind of like a energetic, like, what's going on face. I sealed in all of the paint on this figurine with a varnish, and here is what the final thing turned out looking like. This carrot cake bunny is a little odd looking, but I also kind of like her. She's very cute. She's very, like, surprised. I also really like that I gave her 2 front teeth that are sticking out. Just makes her even cuter. And here are all 3 of the figurine makeovers that I did for this video. We have the carrot cake bunny, the lemon poppy Dalmatian, and of course the sad strawberry shortcake cat. If you recall, in part 1 we started with 5 very hard cupcakes. We gave 3 of them a makeover. 5 minus 3 is 2, which means there are 2 cupcakes left to give a makeover to. Make sense? I'm starting off with this blue cupcake.
How?
I don't know why I hit it that hard. I'm taking out the Crayola air dry clay and just, well, sticking my fingers in it and taking a large chunk out of it. You'll notice that the cupcake is blue already. That is because in part 1, I thought I would have enough time to do all 5 cupcakes. I was wrong. This cupcake is being turned into a blueberry muffin. I love blueberry muffins, and we haven't done the color blue yet, so I thought a blueberry would be perfect for this. Okay, I want everyone to hear me out. I'm gonna say something a bit crazy. As I was creating this piece, I slowly started to realize something. Blueberries are just tiny blue tomatoes.
What?
I know they taste different, but in shape. A blueberry and a tomato. The only difference is a blueberry is smaller and it's blue.
I don't think anyone can disagree with that.
In part 1, all 3 of the cupcakes were fruit or vegetable themed with an animal on top / growing out of the fruit or vegetable. Honestly, a weird concept, but I decided to stick with it because I want these to all be a set of figurines. So this one is a tiny little penguin that is sitting on top of a blueberry. Once this clay addition was hardened and secured on top of the muffin, it was time to paint. I started off by painting the cakey muffin color as well as the blue wrapper. The blue color is remarkably similar to the previous blue color, an imperceptible difference in color that no one cares about except me. I also painted the blueberry with a dark blue bloop color. All right, let me just get it out of my system. Bloop, 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 bloop. Look at the little bloop, bloop. It's a blueberry. All right, I might stop calling it that. Can we call the penguin Mr. Bloop? I feel like that would be great. The blueberry is sitting in a pool of hot blueberry sauce, which is why it looks like it's melting a tiny bit. Our tiny, awkward little penguin is sitting very precariously on top of this blueberry. I wanted his pose to almost look like he's a little bit scared that he might roll off of the blueberry. Dipping into this lime green color, and we're painting the leaves with the lime green. I personally am a fan of lime green, even if it's unrealistic for leaves. I think it looks nice. Our precarious penguin does have a little blueberry barrette. For his beak and his, what is it called? His flippers? Yeah, I think penguin feet are called flippers. We're gonna go with that. I'm not gonna Google it. I'm gonna just trust that I'm correct. I've also dipped into this very pale blue-green color and given our little
Blueberry penguin a belly.
And now it's time for the details. I added a little beak hole, a mouth, as well as some little lines for the leaves. Just some added dark green details. For the highlights, I dipped into some white, added a highlight to the big blueberry, as well as the blueberry sauce that is covering the top of this muffin. And now it's time for the best part, the eyes. Like I said earlier, I wanted this precarious penguin to look a little awkward and like he might roll off of the blueberry. Last but not least, I signed my signature and then took out my high gloss varnish. This is by Angelus. That paintbrush had purple in it and almost ruined everything, but don't worry, I noticed in time and nothing was destroyed. And here we have the final results for Mr. Bloop and his blueberry muffin figurine. I gotta say, I really like Mr. Bloop and his awkwardness. He is just my favorite figurine makeover so far. He's got like a cute stance, you know? He's just like Why am I on top of a blueberry? And I think we can all echo that question with him. Why are you on top of a blueberry? How'd you get up there? Let's move on to the next figurine makeover and the last of the very hard cupcakes. To start off, I'm taking a pretty decent chunk of this clay, arguably too much clay for the task at hand. And then I switched and started creating very small balls of clay. And that is because I decided to turn this cupcake into a grape-flavored cupcake.
I don't like that.
This is the most unrealistic flavor of all of the cupcakes and muffins. Every other cupcake and muffin was an actual flavor. We had strawberry shortcake, carrot cake, lemon poppy, blueberry, and now we have grape. I know, it's not really realistic. The only other thing I could have thought of was an eggplant, but I don't think anyone wants to eat an eggplant muffin. I would much rather do a grape cupcake, so that's where I landed. For the animal inside the grape, I decided to do a frog. You might be asking yourself, why? Why would you combine a grape with a frog? And the reason doesn't really make sense, but I will explain it to you anyway. In a cartoon frog, they put the two eyes in these two balls on top of its head. I thought, wow, it has two balls on top of its head, and a grape has a bunch of balls on the bottom. There were a lot of spherical things going on that would make this go well together. I realize this makes no sense, but who said I was here to make sense? I'm creating two very large leaves to go on top of the grape. I did this in the figurines in the first part, and I really liked it enough to do it again. So here are the two giant leaves, and I'm sticking the frog on top of it. Because this is a grape, and grapes grow off of vines, I decided to add a vine growing out of the top of this frog's head. This decision does raise some questions about the frog. Is the frog a grape, or is the frog a frog? We don't really know yet. I glued it to the cupcake, and now we are finally taking out our paint. I decided to paint the bottom wrapper with this purple, pink, magenta color, and I painted the cupcake with a cupcake color. I painted the grapes with the same magenta, purpley purple color as the wrapper. For the leaves, I initially picked this darker green color and decided it was too dark, so I lightened it up and then painted the leaves with the lighter green color. And here is where we started to go wrong. I decided to make an even lighter green color and paint our frog a light green color. I thought frogs are typically green, let me paint it green. But it caused so many issues that I will explain in a second. But first, for continuity's sake, I must show you that I did paint an initial face on this frog. Remember it, hold it in your brain, it will be erased. You'll notice I'm holding this whole thing by the stem, and that really caused some issues. The stem broke in half. This wasn't the end of the world, but it was the end of Whittle Green Froggy's world, and his stem will never be the same. I'm serious, it literally could not be fixed. It was just like a crack in it. Oh well. I will now explain why the light green color on the frog is wrong. We have purple and green, orange, orange, yellow, yellow, pink, pink, purple, green. No. No, 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 no. The frog needs to be purple or the whole thing is ruined. And I really seriously mean that. The whole set of them would be absolutely ruined. After repainting this frog from green to purple, I started to feel a lot better about this piece. But then we had another problem occur. I started to create the eyes for this kooky, crazy frog. I really wanted the frog to look like he's like having a great time, but he's a little crazy. And I think I took it a little too far. The eyes are just so creepy.
Get away from me! I'm so scared!
And I created Marina's eyes, so I know creepy eyes when I see them, and these eyes are just disturbing. But I thought maybe I just needed some time to get used to it. Maybe I can get over it being the creepiest eyes I have ever created in my whole life. I added some grape jelly sauce to the top of this cupcake, and I was just the whole time looking at those disturbing eyes.
I don't like that at all.
I had to change it. I may have been able to get away with keeping the eyes like this, but honestly, I think it was just for the best. I really wanted the eyes to not look so creepy. I wanted them to look a little kooky, a little crazy, a little bit like, wow, we're having a good time, but not that scary. I think I'm happier with the way the eyes look now. The broken stem kind of looks like a straw, so that's weird. Maybe he's grape juice. Overall, this figurine took the most amount of time out of all of the figurine makeovers that I did. There were just so many things that went wrong and so many things that I changed over and over again. And at the end of it, I think it was worth it. Maybe. Here are both of the figurines that I did for part 2, and I have to say, when I look at them both side by side, I do really love the crazy grape juice character, and I actually really love that the vine looks like a straw. It just adds to the whole craziness. And now it's time for the grand reveal. We have all 5 of the figurine makeovers that I've done in part 1 and part 2. I would have loved to do every color of the rainbow, but I only had 5 cupcakes, so I had to skip green. I did, however, incorporate green into each of the cupcakes so that every color could be represented. I am very happy with all of the characters that I created in these figurine makeovers. I think the one that I most personally relate to is probably the grape, even though the process for creating him was torture.